It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. Needed someone to understand my ups.
Good morning and welcome to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. I'm Gene Sullivan.
And I'm Tony Crockett. How are you today, Gene?
I've got a confession to make. I'm feeling feisty.
Could it be topics that we're discussing today kind of riled you up?
Could be. I mean, you know, we have a prep time before we do the show. And I was extremely argumentative. I found some of these things, some of the trends, troubling and disturbing. So there I've put it out on the table.
All right. We're prepared. Okay,
good. We do have a great show. We're going to talk about a number of great topics. We've got a number of listeners who have written in asking for our response to several situations. We'll get to those a little bit later on. We have a situation where one homeowner is asking, what is considered a reasonable accommodation? And we'll deal with that, dealing with
fair housing and disability.
Fair housing.
Yep.
We also have in Connecticut, in the state legislature there, they have put together a bill where they want to change the process in how budgets get approved in homeowner associations. And the question that's being asked is, should all homeowners be involved and be required to be involved in approving that budget process year after year? We'll talk about that and so much more. But let's begin, why don't we, with property management in the news. Property management in the news is brought to you by Pest Control Services. When you need to get rid of unwanted pests in your home or rental property, call someone who's responsive, professional, and a proud member of Angie's List. That would be Greg Keener. Give him a call, 952-894-9748. That's Pest Control Services. Well, our first story comes out of Seattle, Washington, and it's dealing with two particular homeowners who live at the end of a cul-de-sac together, and they have some disputes with one another in how, I guess, one towards the other. They also happen to live in a homeowners association. The situation coming out of, I think it was March 27th, it went to court. Tensions, it said, began to arise among these two neighbors in particular. And the issue seemed to be about parking of vehicles. And it seems like one homeowner was parking vehicles and even a bus, not only on their property, but on the street. And so what did they do? They first, the other neighbor that was concerned, they got the police involved. So I imagine they went to see if they were doing anything wrong. Because it continued on, these homeowners began using surveillance. So I guess it wasn't enough just to let the police know. Now they're taking pictures, they're taking videos, and they're upping things a little bit more.
Documenting it, yeah.
Now the other neighbor comes back and says, hey, I think that's getting pretty close to harassment. And so now they have orders for harassment charges. Well, and of course, you can see where it's going. It leads to a lawsuit.
Yep.
And what ended up happening here is that the court, and this is interesting, they ultimately affirmed, it says, the summary judgment dismissal of the plaintiff's case. So in other words, when you have a summary judgment, that's the court saying, you know what, we don't even have to take the time to go through this whole case and let
Sure.
everybody argue.
Sure.
We already know from what we see.
We're dismissing this case.
We're dismissing
And that
it.
was done by a lower court first, correct? And
Yes.
then ultimately it went to the Washington Court of Appeals. So the Court of Appeals upheld that summary dismissal. But the interesting point made by this article is the writer starts to talk about, is there a role in this situation for the homeowners association, or should there be a role?
Yes, exactly. The title was a little bit misleading. It says disputes between homeowners can pose a risk to community associations, and
Yeah.
so they're talking about what kind of liability does an association have, and I guess
In disputes between neighbors.
yeah, and I guess I've been around enough to know that there's always collateral damage of some kind or another.
Yeah.
Anytime you're associated with anybody, doesn't matter whether it's loosely or closely. If someone's upset, people nowadays, they end up naming everyone and anybody they can get their hands on, right?
Yeah, although it did not say that the homeowners association was named in this lawsuit.
Not in this particular case.
That may be unusual because it seems that usually it
Yes.
is.
But the writer, you're right, did bring out some things saying, hey, associations could be looking at possible liability. And the writer said there are several decisions that they always have in each and every issue. And it was that I thought was probably worthy enough for our discussion here this morning.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about what those three possibilities are. They said a homeowner association, when there are a dispute, and this is between two neighbors now. This is not between a member of the association against the association.
Right, that's right. They're talking about between neighbors.
Between neighbors, between homeowners, between members in an association, you can either, number one, stay out of the dispute entirely. Number two, you could provide a forum to discuss the dispute and hopefully settle it. Kind of be a little bit of mediator. Number three, you can take a position regarding the dispute and come out then on one side or
with
the
an
other.
opinion. I think it's really interesting because it's very concise. He's telling our homeowners associations and the boards of directors, with any issue that comes up between neighbors, these are really your three options. And it makes it simple and understandable. So in this case of the parking war,
Yes.
which I have to point out that parking is one of the three P's that are problems on properties, and that's parking, plowing, and poop.
That's right.
Meaning dog poop. In this situation, does the board stay out of this dispute entirely? What do you think?
In this particular case, I think, first of all, I guess you should probably cover by saying every instance needs to be looked at individually.
That's
I
right.
don't know that you can say this is the MO that you'll take each and every time.
That's right.
But-
It's very specific to whatever's
Yes.
going on. Yeah.
But in this particular case, yes, if there is a dispute, I think it is good to stay out of it and to give an opportunity for neighbors, hopefully, to be neighbors and to
Yeah.
work it out. I mean,
Yeah.
they're adults. They should be able to do that, don't you think?
Yes, they should. We should be able to do that as adults. We can't always do it. So when does a homeowners association step in a case like this?
I guess clearly, if it is something that continues on and is starting to disrupt others in the homeowner association, and is causing things to flare and continue on to kind of escalate, then I think the association probably needs to take a look at starting to get involved. But but on a number of things, when it comes to parking or pets, it's not a bad idea to if your governing documents and rules coincide with the city or municipality, allow that to be something that the city deals with.
Sure.
and not you
Sure.
in particular, don't you think?
Absolutely. In fact, that's kind of a rule of thumb. If whatever is happening is regulated by the city or state, let those agencies take care of it. So, for example, if there were city parking restrictions on these streets that were in dispute, let the city take care of it. Sounds like that wasn't the case here, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
That would be the stay out of the dispute stance.
I agree. But then there's other things you need to consider, too. What are those things, you ask? Well, we'll tell you, but after this break. We need to take that break right now. You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280, The Patriot. We're going to take a brief... Well, we'll be right back.